right. Welcome. Welcome back for another Women of Color Wealth Wisdom Week panel. I'm Jessica Hadari. I'm your host. I'm looking forward to introducing you today to Eva, Lisa, Dorothy, Inez, Vera, and Shanri. And as you know, we're here to link arms and share wisdom and enter into conversations that allow us to expand our glass ceilings together and to come together and co-create in evolving and up-leveling all of our conversations around wealth, around our leadership. And today's topics are really delicious. Kind of the overarching topic, if you will, is really around abundance in general. Any of the kind of tips or insights that any of these women have around abundance, whether those are practices or more inner game, but also abundance through empowerment and through community. And then we've got some juicy subtopics that we're going to dive into, some juicy rabbit holes that we'll be diving into so that we can go into abundance through empowerment and community a little bit deeper. So before we dive right in to give you our jewels of wisdom, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the spotlight to each of these lovely ladies here with you. So we'll start with, let's start with Lisa.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just do a quick introduction. My name is Lisa Denon Young. I have to take a sigh before I say it, but basically I spent my entire life in hiding until a few years ago. And I realized that through expression comes my liberation, and my liberation helps others be liberated just by holding the torch and allowing other people to see it. And so I do two facets of my work. One is that I'm an event MC, a sound healer, a vocalist, and an entertainer. And the other thing is that I focus on helping women step into their own expression as their source of their leadership and as a means to making the impact and making the income that you've always desired. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk about this because I think that liberation has to happen in community. And the thing that bothers me so much about the personal development industry is that so much of what we see just stops at the individual. And it's like, no, there's actually this ability to come together in community, to rise together, because our environment does impact how we show up every day, what beliefs we've internalized. And so when we can gather in sisterhood like this and share our empowerment with others, we can all rise together. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you so much for presencing this piece around community, which is part of our overarching topic. But I've noticed in the panels this last week, the conversations, it's come up time and time again that your, kind of like who you be in the world is very reflective of who you choose to surround yourself with. And just being really conscientious around your chosen family and like your closest friends and the people you choose as mentors or the people you choose as like people who are taking the same risks as you or stretching in similar ways. So thank you so much for bringing that in, because it is so easy to get very mired in the I'm just going to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I'm going to do it by myself. So thank you.
Yes.
Awesome. Gorgeous, Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Vera.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Vera Singleton, and I'm an integrative naturopathic doctor with a practice in Lafayette, California. And I help women or people and women who are experiencing issues with their health related to overstress and burnout, to recover their bodies back to feeling amazing again, feel like yourself again. And, one of the things that's really come out of, I was on a panel on Tuesday, it's been an incredible week from what I've been hearing. The feedback has been really incredible. And just, it's interesting because my conversations with clients over the past week has really sort of reflected on what's happened in these panels, which tells me that women in their 40s specifically, because I'm in that age range, are not having conversations about the real stuff that bothers them. And this could be related to health, it could be related to relationships and intimacy, it could be, gosh, my hormones are all over the place, I have no idea, and they're getting information, online. It's a very impersonal connection to find information, when historically, we've always just been in community and shared that, right? The sisterhood. And so I'm thrilled, in my work, this is what I do with clients on a one-to-one basis. Have conversation about what's happening with their health and how that relates to the overall sphere of what they live into, how they're living in their life. But this forum has been incredible for me as an individual, as a practitioner, as a woman in her 40s, to just, one, appreciate an extraordinary community of women, and two, recognize that this voice, this conversation needs to be had on a day-to-day basis. So thank you, Jessica, for having us, for being bold enough to have this vision and recruiting all of us to be part of that incredible vision. And I'm excited to participate today and tomorrow, of course, and just really blowing open that mindset, blowing open the mindset.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vera. And I really appreciate the wisdom that you're bringing to this conversation as well, just in terms of holistic health. One of the things we spoke about yesterday is just how it's so easy, just because of the political climate, because of our societal times, certainly the location that many of us live, where we're constantly bombarded by everything from like a lot of intensity, certainly around race relations, around, being faced here in the Bay Area, just tons of homelessness and poverty, just right, everywhere you look, everywhere you drive, and just the kind of like constant empathy, like jabs, and the constant bombardment with just also, like a lot of people working multiple jobs and just trying to just thrive in this economy, and that stress and running those stress hormones, how that impacts our capacity, how that impacts our beliefs about what we think is possible for ourselves, because it's easy to just get like really weighed down and mired down, and how it actually it's actually making women sick, like all of these stress hormones. So I love bringing this whole piece of wellness and self-care into this conversation about linking up and rising up. So thank you, Dr. Vera. Beautiful. Shanri, welcome.
So yeah, my name.
Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry. There was a little lag, and I was worried that we can hear you, but I can hear you fine. Sorry.
Okay. Great. Well, great. My name is Renato, and I love helping people, especially women, to just come into their bodies, their full expression, their power, their self-love. So I really help women and couples to become that, to feel like aligned and empowered and expressed and just in love with themselves and with life. I am so excited about being able to be on here with all these amazing women and like hearing, eating up all this wisdom and juiciness. And I'm really loving and just really tapping into more and more the idea of community. As well, because I just had a conversation with someone and was just talking about how we often can, as entrepreneurs, put ourselves in these little isolated boxes, and how that is just like inherently not nourishing for business, for health, for just creating the types of world that we're wanting to create. And it's not just the isolation of community, it's also and being able to be in community expression, being able to have these different ways in which we communicate and contribute. And so when we come together and have the functional doctors, have the artists, have the business people, have all of this, that really creates a well-rounded community where we're able to really support each other and create something that is that much more flourishing and nourishing for everyone. So I'm really excited and really thankful that you have brought all of us together in all of our areas of expertise and creating a vocal community where we're able to, to share, to listen, and to be with each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Shanri. It's such an honor to have you as part of this conversation. I love that you're bringing this piece around embodiment, for sure, because it's easy to just kind of go up into our heads and try to figure out wealth stuff, figure out solutions. If we're in scarcity, to just kind of like go into what sometimes feels to me like robot mode. And actually, when I'm like in my body and even connected to my own sensuality and sexuality, which I know is also an area that you definitely hold space for people to explore, that's actually where I find myself my most magnetic, my most able to drop in with other people, not necessarily in a sensual or sexual way, but when I'm connected to my power in a real embodied way, it's like, yeah, I'm able to really make a connection, and then that has led to clients and therefore income, etc. So thank you so much for bringing in this really important piece, Shanri. Dorothy Inez, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Jessica. I'm too excited to be here with everyone. I am a confidence and I'm going to add beauty expert as well, because I started my entrepreneurship as a beauty and self-love coach and transitioned into confidence, which I've been doing the last couple of years. And I'm about to add to that, I'll be a certified wellness coach, because I've found everything I do has been a part of my own journey to becoming the confident woman that I am. It's embodying my beauty, learning to love who I am, and that spiritual identity is really key to the work that I do. And so I'm just so excited about helping women to step into that next level that they're being called to. You know, I said on our last call, next level, new devil. You can be confident where you are, but as you get ready to up level, your confidence is challenged. And I love helping women do that, to really own who they were meant to be in this lifetime. And so and I'm just excited about today's topic because community, I love, it's common unity. And that's one of the things with the women that I work with, I call each and every woman sister, because truly we are sisters. And I love building sisterhood and really empowering women to really come together and unite like we're doing here today. So thank you, Jessica, for bringing this community of women together.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dorothy Inez. It's so great to have you back for another panel and have your wisdom and your heart here. And I really appreciate the way that you bring in spirituality into this conversation. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Eva, welcome.
Hi, I'm Eva Medilek, and thank you again, Jessica, for having me be part of something so powerful and so amazing. So a little bit about myself. I am a certified high performance coach and a relationship success coach. So I work with highly driven leaders so that they can increase their relational capacity to up level the potential for success in both their personal and professional lives. And the reason why I love the topic that we are speaking, one of the topics that we're speaking about today, as opposed abundance and scarcity, is in my program, I work with my clients to actually make that connection from their early life experiences, how they were taught to relate, how they were taught to relate to money, to each other, to personal relationships, business, health, all of that, and where those early life experiences have actually formed their patterns, beliefs, and behaviors, and can be sabotaging or damaging the relationships that they have today. And one of the things that personally I realized, that I grew up with parents who grew up in the Depression era. So there was a lot of scarcity, even though we didn't need to have scarcity. And just how that has been ingrained in me subconsciously, even though I consider myself abundant. Just little things I can see where that thread, that through line from the past shows up, and how I relate today, and how it can stop me from creating more abundance in my life. And so how I work with clients is I work with them and I take them on that journey so that they can open up their awareness to where those early life experiences can be showing up to sabotage their relationships, and then bring them into work that actually highlights their future self and brings them towards where they want to be, where they see themselves in the world and in relationship and in connection, because connection is currency. And just when you notice, like for example, I will use a piece of soap until it disappears because I learned that from my mom. So where else is that showing up in my life when it comes to scarcity, and scarcity preventing abundance from showing up in my life? So the fact that we actually realize is some of the little things that are popping up that can block prosperity and influence success and abundance and everything we see our future selves being. And so how I work is I really take you through a program, a process, I should say, that opens up that awareness so that you can notice it, and then we work on that future focus. So thank you again for allowing me to be here and to speak into these important topics. And I'm just really honored to be in the presence of all you lovely ladies as well.
Gorgeous, Eva. Thank you so much for bringing your wisdom here. One of the things we spoke about in our a previous panel, we were talking about the how do we overcome the second-class citizen mindset, which all women, regardless of lineage, is something that we grapple with, because it was really just in my lifetime was the first time that women were able to have a credit card or a mortgage in their own name without a male cosign. Previous to that, like our mothers and their grandmothers were not allowed that basic right, but you could call it a privilege, but they were not allowed. So even if we grew up in a time where we have access to all these incredible, college or, these other privileged abilities, that our mothers and our grandmothers didn't. And so we received a lot of that programming and a lot of layers of what beliefs around what's possible for women, around money, around our leadership, around being in positions of power. So thank you so much for bringing this piece of programming and early childhood, because it's something that all women, regardless of their background, we're kind of in the birthing pains of learning how to unlayer, how to dance with some of that. So thank you very much. Awesome. Well, welcome so much, ladies. Thank you again for being here. I'm just going to post our topics in the chat box so that you can all see it. It's a little jumbled up, but I'll take us through each of these conversation rabbit holes individually. So the first rabbit hole, and this is all based, the topics that we talk about, those of you that are watching this or listening to this, all of the women who are involved in this project all collectively chose the topics that they thought would be most relevant to this conversation. So all of the topics we're diving into today and our previous conversations are conversations that were suggested by the panelists 6 months ago when I first started having these conversations with them. So the first topic is really around liberation and choice. So any thoughts you have around liberation and choice, and how do we as women elevate our sense of value and potential? So I will just open it up for anyone who has some wisdom.
I want to say something about that really quickly. So liberation and choice. I'm all about sensuality, expression, pleasure. Growing up we grow up in families and societies that tell us, to shut down our pleasure, to close it up, shut it down, make it right, be all perfect. And then what ends up happening is we're just, it literally shuts down our energy, shuts down our expression. Then we start acting in weird ways. And what's really beautiful is that when we're connected to our liberation, you can, exploring sensuality, exploring your pleasure, being in all of that, it literally it is a liberation of spirit, a liberation of power, a liberation of choice, of being able to be your full self. And it's something that that men, or that the patriarchy, they've been able to just have and just do. And it's something that it's our, it's so beautiful that women, that we can do this through pleasure, that we can do this through connecting with our bodies, and doing it also really consciously, so that it's, so that it's our, our experience, our sense of liberation, our sense of, connection to that. And again, like talking about value, that's, it's also us valuing ourselves. When we give our bodies pleasure, we pay attention to this vessel that we are using to connect with the world. It's a symbol of us valuing ourselves, and then therefore also inviting others to see our value and to be in that valuation process. So, yeah.
And I'm wondering too, I just wanted to take it one layer deeper, or kind of give practical information to women who might not live in the Bay Area. I feel like we have access to so many workshops and ecstatic dance and yoga and all of these different ways that we might kind of get into our bodies and into our pleasure and states of, deliciousness and self-care. If somebody doesn't live in the Bay Area, maybe they don't have as much access to all the wild stuff we have access to here. What is your recommendation for just like a simple way, or ways that a woman could just touch in on that on a regular basis?
Yeah, so I would say two very simple ways. First, one that I just love, is so simple, is to turn on like your favorite music and just jam out, and just do it just for you, and enjoy every single process of listening to the music, of being in your body, just letting yourself fully express. And the second part is, it's like a kind of meditation. So like there's the expression, putting it out, and then there's like this internal deep, just meditative feeling, like a sensual feeling. So the expression is so you can feel it, and then the meditation is the inward process, so that you can really have that lock, have that locked in, and have a relationship with yourself.
Thank you. I love that you said that, just dance. I do that sometimes before I have client calls, or like if I just kind of feel myself getting I call it critchy in my body. I don't even know what that means, but just I kind of get like old lady body, just like, oh, I gotta juice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah, and it just literally creates an openness, it creates an openness in spirit, it creates an openness with yourself, and then you bring that out into the world, and it's inviting. Inviting. So many times, when we're trying so hard and doing, it literally creates an energy for how people are going to interact with us. And so, after you've danced, you automatically kind of have this little smile, or a little and that's just so drawing and attractive.
Yeah. Thank you. Other thoughts about elevating our value, elevating our potential, liberation, choice?
I would like to comment.
Go ahead.
Can I
Okay.
say?
Okay. Well, I'll just say this quickly, and then Northia Inez, you can jump in. It's interesting because we all go through life cycles, right? So I think, what is it, every 7 years or every 10 years, we sort of reinvent ourselves. And I think for women, at least when I see, because I'm running lab work and I'm doing a very physical left brain activity with women, but I see that there's a change when you're 25, the quarter life crisis, and then you get to 35, and that's right around when you're, in the throes of childbearing, and then you're at 45, and this is right around you know, the peak of parenting or the peak of your career. And then 55 is, you know, stepping into the wise woman phase. And then 65 is, you know, who gives a rat about you? This is what I'm doing with my life. You know, so it's interesting as I see, you know, there's a physical chemical change that happens in the body with time. And I think there's this ownership that also happens too, of yourself, of the priorities that you have, of the people that you surround yourself with, and the energy that you surround yourself with. And so I say this to say, you know, it's okay to change. It's okay to change, right? Like, because physically and physiologically we shift, right? Early years were designed for being hormonal baby making machines, but it's not so much that once you get into your 40s and 50s and 60s. So there's a different priority and a different energy, I think, with that femininity, where, you know, early on we devote it to creating life, but I think later on we devote it to creating ourselves and defining our identities. And I think oftentimes that disconnect, that we have to be this one person over time, as opposed to just accepting that, you know, gosh, like, I am changing and my values are changing and my mission is changing. And so it's good for one, to have a community of girlfriends to check in with, but two, to have a sense of, you know, a benchmark of, how have I changed? How am I different? And really accepting that change, because it's just part of, like, life is change, period. And to think that we can, you know, get away from it or be exempt from it, it's kind of, it's silly, it's backwards, right? This is a part of evolution.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Dorothea, Inez, were you gonna add in something? I'm sorry, I cut you off. Oh, and she's on mute too.
I can actually speak into that if, you know, and I'll do it quickly because I know we have other topics to get to. But, you know, what was coming up for me during that conversation was about my maternal ancestral history. And the reason why that came up is because, you know, many of us are the direct descendants of people who were enslaved and in slavery. And the mindset that some of our maternal ancestors and paternal as well came up with, you know, grew up with is what I should say, you know, is weaved throughout our history. And for example, you know, I grew up in the civil rights era, and my dad was actually Martin Luther King's bodyguard a week or two before his assassination. And so knowing what my dad had to put up with as an African-American cop in the 60s actually formulated his mindsets and reactions. And it was heavily impressed upon in the home. And what I mean by that, it still was a patriarchal home. And a lot of times I heard him say in the house, "Why do you need that? You don't need that." And I saw how it eventually just pushed my mom down. And that was, I was very aware and conscious for me to do better and to have better for myself and to be able to have my sense of value, and whether I need it or not, if it was something that I desired, I got to take care of myself that way, you know, and that's what self-care is all about. Like, no, I don't need to have a manicure and pedicure or my eyelashes done or my back massaged, but it's self-care is the right that I've earned through what my maternal ancestors went through, where they were denying themselves all of these years. I saw the sacrifices both of my parents made for me so that I can have it better. And I think it's our right in this generation. I'm the oldest one of this group on this panel here. And I see all of you lovelies coming up, and it's our right as women in whatever generation we're in to do more, to be more, so that we can have more and set that example. So that was just some of the things that were coming up for me, just listening to the conversation. Like, yes, we get to do all of this, but let's do it for the ones who actually lived before us so that we can. And let's not deny ourselves our value, our self-worth, the ability to be, do, and have whatever we desire, so that we can move the generations forward. And, somebody did some type of reading for me at one point. It was a constellation type reading, and it really empowered me to live for my mom, for my grandmother, and for my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, and just keep that generation getting more and more, or the lineage, I should say, more and more empowered as the generation goes forward. And I have children in their 30s, and I'm imparting that to them, like, yes, you can be better than me, and you can do it. Don't deny yourself. You deserve it. And I just always remember, like, it's in my mind now, because my dad's 87 and he's stayed with us for the past couple of weeks. He's going home today. And I still hear him say, I don't need that. Can I get you a cup of coffee? Oh, I don't need that. You don't need to do anything for me. And I know that's that history of growing up in the Deep South and only getting your needs taken care of, and we've moved beyond that. And so that's actually what was coming up for me with this particular topic, is like, no, I owe it to my mom to live a step better or higher, or just like, she didn't do it for nothing. You know what I mean? So that's what was coming up for me.
I so appreciate you bringing that piece in. I feel my heart beating as you were talking about. When I think about, as I mentioned during my intro, that I spent my whole life in hiding. I thought I was too much. I was too loud. I was too big, too bright, too shiny. Don't shine too much over your sisters. Don't shine too much over your mother. And I grew up in a family of mostly women. And what I have found for myself and also for my clients is, one, in order to, when it comes to the very beginning of the liberation, first we have to be aware of it, right? We have to be aware that we think of ourselves as second-class citizens, that we're holding ourselves down, that we're not allowing ourselves to have things because we don't believe that we deserve them and that we believe we're worthy of them. So being able to have access to this huge paradigm shift, to understand, okay, here's a paradigm I'm living in. These are all the things that factored into the beliefs that I hold from my family, from society, from friends, et cetera, et cetera. These are the things I've internalized, the things that I've come to believe about myself. And then when we know where we are currently, and we know where we want to go, then we can talk about actually stepping into this liberation. So for me, and oh my goodness, thank you for bringing up the matrilineal line. Oh, that's come up for me so much recently. And since you spoke about being a baby boomer, and I am in my 30s, and what I've found kind of from the other side of it, the younger side, is that stepping into my own liberation, expressing myself, showing up as too much, too bright, too shiny, too whatever, right? Because people will always be triggered by us taking up space. People will always be triggered by us using our voices. People will always be triggered by our liberation, and they're triggered because they haven't liberated themselves. And this is why it's our opportunity. So with my own family, I have found, and I actually have tactics and strategies that I help people with as they're doing this in terms of relating to their families, because it is triggering. It is triggering for people who don't understand the paradigm that they're living in, or do get it but aren't able to get out of it, to have that liberation. And so with my own family, as I found myself getting more self-expressed and more bold in expressing myself as a leader, and more committed to expressing myself as a leader, the amazing thing that I've experienced is that it's almost contagious, not in the same exact way, but it's like, oh, she's doing that. Oh, that's possible. And some of it's unspoken. Some of it I can just feel. But all of this to say that, I'm the youngest in my family. I'm the youngest in the line. And holding that position and seeing the power, and the way I think of this is the liberation that we create for ourselves is us stepping into our own intrinsic power, not power over somebody else, but the power that we hold within ourselves. When we step into that and we show up with that, it is an opportunity for other people to kind of take an internal look and reflection. And so my experience with my family was that I was almost over communicative. Like, okay, I'm changing. This is happening. You're going to see a different person the next time I come home. I'm a little bit different. And so being able to communicate in this way helped prepare them to see the way that I'm showing up now. I had a call with my mom last month, I think. And I told her, hey, Mom, I'm coming out of the psychic intuitive healer closet. Hey, Mom, you're going to start seeing pictures of me being sexy. Like, she works at the church, by the way. She works at the church. I said, Mom, you're probably not going to want to have my Facebook up while you're at church. She mentioned something about earlier. And yeah, I don't actually know if I'm going to be doing that, but I wanted to prepare her so that instead of just seeing something on social media or seeing an interview that I've done, we get to have this conversation. She gets to process with me because I'm prepared to hold that space for her. So I truly have seen the domino effect that's possible when we become conscious of how we're shackled and we allow ourselves to be unshackled and show up in that way.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Lisa. Dorothy Inez, I'd love to hear from you because I've had conversations with you around value and potential where you've woven in God and spirit, and I just would love to get your perspective before we switch topics.
So yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, wow, my perspective is everything for me is so deeply spiritual, and my liberation has come through my, like I told you the last time, I have this group called the Liberated Soul Collective, and that was inspired through my own journey of being, you know, as Lisa used the term, shackled by my religious, I won't say I was brought up as Christian, but I've always been called to the deeper things of God, and that led me down this Christian path, which led me to, you know, a lot of religiosity. And over the last, I'd say, I was in Bible college, and that's where I feel like I had my awakening, because in Bible college I started to actually, where I was supposed to be embracing Christianity, I began to feel like I wanted to distance myself from those beliefs. I began to have this awakening, and I began to study under Michael Bernard Beckwith, who is one of my spiritual mentors. And I just started having this awakening of who I am in God. Who does God say that I am? And these things, my father, you know, beating me down and having all these expectations for me, the church. I used to remember, I do videos. You see, I have well, you can't see it now because somebody called in and made my screen go dark, but I have this Buddha behind me. And I remember doing videos about 5 years ago, always pushing my Buddhas aside when I would do live videos. And then when I'd finish, I'd bring them back into where they were supposed to be, because I was hiding who I was. I loved doing oracle cards and all these things. And I'm like, but you're a Christian. You're not supposed to be into these things. But yet these deeper things were calling me. And I finally came to this place inside of myself that I know who I am in my oneness with God. And it doesn't matter what other people think. I don't need to keep trying to please my father, keep trying to please all these people. All I had to please was me, because God lives in, through, as me. And once I came to that realization, that's when I really became liberated, free to be who I am. Like Lisa said, you know, oh, you talk too much, you're too this, you're too everything. You know, I keep mentioning my dad because it's just like constantly beating me down of who God made me to be. I was born to be a light. And he kept pushing that light down. And when I again, that spiritual identity, coming to the truth of who I am, has fully liberated me and allowed me to shine. And I don't give a crap who likes it or not, because I was born to be a light, and I'm owning that. So that's been so powerful for me. Thank you, sisters. And and sometimes it's lonely out here, but your light attracts in the ones you were meant to be connected to. And like you and I connected, Jessica, on that ship, and here we are. And so that's been my liberation, to just that oneness with God and just knowing who I am in that.
Gorgeous. Thank you. I'm going to facilitate our change of topics, although I feel like we could just keep going in this one, because I feel the cave of value and self-worth and potential is like, never ending. So yeah, thank you so much for your wisdom. And if you have other jewels that want to be spoken as we go into these other topics, that's fine. But we're going to move into feeling fear and showing up powerfully anyway. And there's also a piece in here about resistance, like fear, resistance. How do we have those feelings or those experiences and still move forward, or still show up powerfully anyway? And I think I wanted to just name that in kind of workshop transformational world circles, there's this term called spiritual bypass, where you might be grappling with something and you kind of like pretend that it's not an issue, or kind of stuff it down and don't deal with it and put a bit smile on your face. And I don't think that's what this rabbit hole is about. It's like, how do we actually feel the feels and dance with them and be really real and raw and authentic, but without letting ourselves get sideswiped or pulled out of our centers. So I welcome your thoughts.
I would like to comment on this, because I love this topic.
Me too.
Again, it's going to all go back to spirit for me, because this is something that women in the work I do, they're always, they're afraid to step out. And for me, what I teach is really, it's going back to knowing who you are. It's okay to feel the fear. It's like a FF, feel the fear. Because to me, you can use that as a catalyst to something big, and energy that helps you show up more powerfully, rather than letting it be something that holds you back, but really remembering who you are. Because a lot of times when we look at what are we afraid of, when I ask clients, well, what are we afraid of? It always starts with I'm afraid that they're going to judge me. I. And to me, when I hear that you're all up in ego. You have edged God out. When you remember who you are, one with God, and you allow the God in you to show up, then that takes that burden off of the ego to show up, and allows your higher self to show up, because you've been called forth to show up. So something is wanting to be revealed through you, as you. And when you remember that and just take the I out of the picture and let the higher self show up, fear just becomes energy that you can use to show up more powerfully.
I love that description with the edging God out the ego. That's so good.
Thank Dr. Wayne Dyer for that.
What was that?
I got that from Dr. Wayne Dyer. That was something I
did you say that?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think I've actually was journaling about this the other day. Like, how do I make fear so sexy for my clients and for the people who follow me online, that they want to get into fear? So I've come to this place.
Let me know how you do that. I love it.
I'll let you know. So some things I've downloaded, but it's not, the steps. I'm still working on the steps. But I've come to this place for myself where it's like, I am looking for my edge. Like, where is the next scary thing? Because I'm running right toward it. I like to think of fear. My analogy for it is, I grew up, people don't usually know this about me until the football game comes on, but I grew up watching the Eagles because I'm from the East Coast. What up? And I think of fear as like a football, and I want to catch that football and run it down the field for my touchdown. Like, fear will always be with me when I'm leaving my comfort zone. Fear will always be with me when I'm up leveling how I value myself and showing up with that in the world, and showing up with that in my relationship, and showing up with that in my business. That fear is always going to be there every single time. So I love what you said, Jessica, when you introduced this topic about dancing with it, because literally we've got to have a relationship with fear. And when I say that, I don't mean to focus on it, but to know that it's going to be there. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing to feel fear. That is how you know you are about to step into your growth. That's how you know you're going to a new place. That's how you know you're expanding the edges of what's possible for you. And so when it comes to me, when I'm dealing with, so I'll just give an example. In last July, I had my biggest stage ever, 14,000 people, over a 3-day weekend. I was emceeing this music festival in 2 languages. And I actually told someone my secret halfway through the festival. I was like, I've never been to a music festival in the US. So yes, this was a totally new opportunity, new experience. But a few things. One, I love this point about the ego edging God out. It was not about me. And it was so clear the moment I showed up to that festival that I was supposed to be there, and I wasn't supposed to be there for my own success. I was supposed to be there to facilitate a transmission to that audience. And that has nothing to do with what's in here, or even what's in here. It was about the transmission. It was about being a channel. So that was the first part. But the second part, the part that I do control is, I'm feeling the fear in my belly, in my gut. That's where it shows up for me. And literally dancing with it. How can fear be pleasurable? Like, we think so much about the pain because it's scary, and the feeling of scariness is painful. We think about our reptilian brain, which is looking for the scary thing because it wants to keep us safe. So it's focusing on the pain. If you have a brain doing that, that means your brain is working well. So it's not a bad thing. It's a human thing. And where can we bring in joy, love, pleasure to help facilitate the integration of that fear, of that, whatever the negative experience for you might be? It could be shame, it could be guilt, fear based on judgment, fear based on rejection, fear based on all kinds of things, fear of the future, fear of failing, etc. It can be fun. This sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, girl, but it's true. It can be fun, and you can dance with it. I actually work, I have a community of entrepreneurs where when we, on our Facebook group, we literally show up and we're like, oh my God, I'm so sexy when I'm so scared of having this deep conversation with my husband. Oh my gosh, I'm just so hot when I'm freaking out about sending my email to my list and making an offer. Oh my gosh, how cute am I? And literally allowing ourselves to feel and enjoy it, because it's part of being human. And it's a really awesome part of growing and stepping into your leadership, whether that's leadership in your love life, in your health, in your business, and whatever that is.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, and I'll just say sometimes, I'll do this thing when fear comes up, because I don't often dance with the fear. Sometimes I have to muddle in it for perspective's sake. But I'll just think about, like, where else have I done something like this in my life? Like, we all have track records of being a certain way. And so, if this fearful thing comes up, it's like, well, how is that going to be any different than how you've attacked anything else in your life, right? If you showed up everywhere else, what makes you think that you're going to be different in this scenario? So it's almost like, stepping in, owning, like Dorothea Inez, like you said, like owning your God self. This should be something that's ingrained within you. You're going to win no matter what, right? So for me, I think of, you know, whether it's doing a presentation or whether I'm making an offer or whether I'm doing, it's like, you know, I've done this many, many times in my life. Like I've done really big, juicy things I've been terrified about and my belly's been, you know, grinding, but I have a track record. And so why is this any different than anything else I've done in my life? And sometimes when I bring that up to my clients, you know, they really stop and think like, oh yeah, like it really isn't any different. It's the same energy, it's the same devotion, it's the same passion. So why is this any different? And I think really having that allowance makes a huge difference in, you know, taking 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps into whatever fear you're facing.
Yeah, I mean, I thank you. I really love that the allowing part that you're talking about. For me, like feeling fear. So for me, I've been a performer, a dancer, and like, you know, big stages and doing all these different things. And in some ways that is like the easy part, but like where the real fear comes in, like that deep, vulnerable self, the parts of myself that I'm like, you know, that I'm holding so dearly. And I'm not, you know, it's like, if I open this up and let the world see, they're going to see the real me. Yeah. And that's for me, it's like the deep, scary part. And like in sensuality, you know, in sensuality and relationships, and we create these things because it's like, you know, here's like this place to, you know, possibly be this open, vulnerable, raw, exposed self. And it's something that's just so precious. And, you know, and fear comes up when you feel that it's coming up because it's like, you know, a desire to protect ourselves, a desire to like, you know, to be safe. And when I'm really, when the process that for me personally, and also like working with clients in really feeling fear, it's an intimate dance, is an intimate, you know, feeling, like being, not being delicate with it, but being in deep love and care with it and with yourself as, you know, as you're going through that. Because, you know, when the showing up powerfully anyway, I feel sometimes that we can do like a kind of like a spiritual bypassing and like a performance bypassing, you know, and like, okay, I'm just going to show up and I'm just going to do the thing. And there's something that is so precious and so deep about really truly feeling that vulnerable part of yourself and having a relationship with that, because that vulnerable part, that's a young one, that is, you know, that's an innocent one. I feel that's also like the intimate one, the part of ourselves that allows us to really connect with people and allows us to see each other soul to soul. Showing up powerfully in that way, from like this really, you know, caring, loving, depthful, compassionate self, I feel is a way that is real. It's a real way of powerfully showing up, because I think we have too many, like, you know, too much like performance, too much like, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then people get like, you know, as leaders, I think we get shown something that's not true. We get shown, you know, a bypass. We get shown something that is not sustainable. We get shown something that's not creating community and that's not acknowledging the, you know, the true path of what it takes to actually show up and show your actual self. And so, feeling fear, you know, showing up powerful, it's something that's so, it is so powerful, and so, it is powerful because it is so vulnerable.
Ooh, yeah, snaps to that. I think, Shauna, you and I share, because we both have this background of performance and also doing relationship work. So like both sides of the vulnerability and then the performance. And when you just said that, man, that was such a thing that I've dealt with. In fact, this past summer, I did a talent show where we each had 3 minutes, and I was spiritually guided to do this. So it wasn't my plan, but I'm so grateful it happened. I walked on stage, I set the timer for 2 minutes, and I put the phone down, and I just stood there, literally stood there, and looked at people in the audience eye to eye, and not smiling to appease anyone's discomfort, but standing there, vulnerably connecting and taking up space. And I'm just really grateful that you presence that, because there's a huge difference between performing and being and allowing yourself to be seen in that power. So thanks for that, Shawnee.
I was going to add too, the one thing I think Sean Ray was saying is that what I call the fake it till you make it, that faux confidence. When you feel fear, it's not sustainable. It's just something that lasts for that moment when you're like, yeah, I got this, and just do it for the moment, but you can't keep that going. That's why for me, I believe it's an internal, it becomes a practice, a spiritual practice to keep stepping into the fear, allowing yourself to feel it, and just having the courage to step into it. And one of the things I wanted to share, because you had just talked earlier about practical things, one of the things I find really helpful is using visualization. When I'm afraid, is visualizing myself succeeding, because oftentimes when we're afraid generally because we want to do well, we want to succeed. And so imagining myself doing that thing that I'm afraid of the most, and letting myself go through it in my mind, and allowing the feeling tone to go through my body of being in success, has always been very helpful when I'm feeling fear. And then that energy of, literally, you're kind of stepping into the future self for that moment, taking that energy into whatever it is I'm afraid of, helps me to do it well.
Mm-hmm. You know, I love what all of you ladies share, and I just want to add one more thing to it. I mean, a lot of times we are afraid of failure, afraid of the criticism, afraid of the judgment, but there's also the fear of success that holds a lot of people back, afraid what happens if I am successful, what happens when this goes well, how can I keep this up, can I deliver, am I good enough, am I talented enough, or whatever the case may be, to sustain this. And I just wanted to bring up something that has helped me when that fear comes, whether it's my perfectionism getting the best of me, or, you know, ooh, what if it works? You know, what if it's a hit? Like, how will I sustain this? When you get anxious and future focused, so to speak, is really, you know, and I think Sean Rhea had mentioned it, and Lisa as well, to focus out. You know, think about the generosity piece. Who needs to hear your message? Who needs to hear what you have to say? Who are you making a difference for, and who won't get to hear your message if you hold back and if you don't put yourself out there? And when we take the focus off of ourselves, whether it's, will I fail, will I fall, will I be judged, will I be criticized, and all of that, or will I succeed, and just think about, who needs to hear this message? Who can I help? Who needs help with their relationships? Who needs to get out of the pain of the past and the wounds of the past that are keeping them from being their best future self? And how can my message, my story, however messy, however vulnerable, however I deliver it, is how they need to hear it, and to really be confident in that. Of course, you know, taking action in the face of fear is courage anyway, but always think about that one person. You know, I recently had this when I spoke on stage in London last month, and there were so many things going on around that went not right before I got on stage that it honestly threw me off. And I knew it, but I made the switch. You know what? I'll just do the best I can, and whoever needs to hear it in the way I deliver it, it'll land for them. And that's why I was there. That's me fulfilling my purpose. That's me saying, I always have this as this acronym that means, oh, what the F, go for it anyway. You know, just go for it, and say that mantra in my mind. And after this talk, so many women came up to me and said how my story made a difference. So I just wanted to add that little piece, because I know when people think of fear all the time, they're naturally thinking of fear of failure, judgment, criticism, and all of that. But there is that fear of success that is, you know, when we peel back the layers, for a lot of people is the real thing that may be holding them back from stepping into their future selves.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much for your amazing wisdom, everybody. I love that we get to kind of take these out and just examine these like jewels. So really appreciating these conversations. Our final topic today is really about community and how do we create relationships or even power relationships and friendships that are beneficial, that are either directly towards success or wealth building, or just towards supporting us on our path towards that. I would just love to get your thoughts around community, friendships, relationships, and how does that tie in? How does that tie in for you?
Well, one of the things that I notice that's coming up a lot is loneliness, right? Loneliness is a new disease, which, you know, kind of seems backwards, because we depend on people, we live amongst people, and as much as we're, you know, connected here, we're don't turn on, it's very much isolating. And so, you know, what I find is that, and this happens to me, to where, you know, I made the decision to delete Facebook, right? To delete most of the social media apps off my phone. And I make it a point to call, like pick up and call people. Now I'll text, don't get me wrong, but you know, I thought to myself, like, what if I do this throwback thing and like send letters and send cards and, you know, like pick up the phone and reach out to people? Because what I recognize is that I need love too. Like, I need to be fed. And people always just assume because you got it together and you look well, you know, you got it together, you have all your ducks in a row, but I'm hurting inside too. I'm lonely too. And so when I thought about, you know, I wonder how other people are feeling, how would I want to be reached out to? So I started picking up the phone and calling people. I started, you know, texting people, hey, can we actually meet up, instead of talking about it a month in advance? But I think it's breaking out of this, and you know, of course, you know, to make it very logical and left-brained, community is an antidepressant. It's the most natural, abundant antidepressant that you can possibly take. And so, you know, there's tons of studies looking at isolation and loneliness and what that does to cortisol and what that does to serotonin levels. You know, if you're feeling lonely, or just like walk out in the street and say hi to someone. It could be as basic as that. And if that first person looks at you like you're insane because why are you talking to me? Talk to someone else. Like, think about how enriching that feels to just say hi. You know, here I am, acknowledge me in my space. And think about what that does for you as a person to express, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, and I want to connect too. Like all of the societies that, you know, they're centenarian abundant, community and being social is part of the medicine. It's part of the healing. So to ignore it, you know, and let this be the dominant way of our communicating, I feel it's backward, and it's sending our society, and especially as women, to communicate. We are tribal, sit in a circle people. And if you're not doing that, if you're feeling the sense of loneliness or separation, pick up the phone and call a girlfriend, or go out and make a friend. it's, you know, look at children. It's so easy for them to just pick up and start chit-chattering to each other. I'm such in awe. Well, you know, I look at my niece and she just walks up and puts her arm around somebody and just starts chatting with them. Like, when's the last time you've done that? There's never. I don't even remember because I was 5 or 6 years old. but you know, I see in myself needing that community, needing that feminism, that connection with my feminine energy more and more and more the older I get. I don't know how you ladies feel about that, but
I'd like to comment. This is definitely something that I've struggled with as an entrepreneur, like you were saying, Dr. Vera, is that we're so isolated here at home. We're so used to doing Zoom calls, and this is the extent of my contact. And, you know, this is why, you know, I decided to get myself out of the house, and I went and got myself a little part-time job working in a place that's in alignment with, you know, things that I love. So it's like just going and being in community and just being super friendly and having fun, because it gets so lonely. And being older, 40, you know, I'm 53, and it's like women still have, you know, women have children, they're into their man, and I'm kind of single. I live here by myself, and it's like you got to make an appointment to see your friend. Nobody called because they saw you on Facebook and you look like you're so busy. And I'm like, girl, pick up the phone. And sometimes extroverts like myself, you get tired of always being the person who's reaching out. I'm like, damn, can somebody reach out to me? I need some support too, you know? And so, you know, those that are listening, I encourage you to reach out. Don't make assumptions, you know, connect. I love meeting with people in person, because you actually feel them, you can hug them, because touch is so important. And so I love building community. It goes back to that common unity. We need that unity part of it. So that's my thoughts.
yeah.
I like this.
Okay, I'm just going to say something really quickly. Absolutely. As someone who, like, you know, can get into that loneliness spiral, like, you know, being entrepreneur, et cetera, what I have found for both for my health, for my personal well-being, as well as for business health, is anytime that I ask or am in collaboration with anyone, it works. I'm personally not, I mean, I am not a solo only person. That has never ever worked for me. And also, you know, I could coming up as, you know, Black woman, you know, like we can do everything, you can figure everything out, you know, and that's totally something that's always kind of running in the background. And sometimes I'll feel guilt about asking for help or about creating relationships. And it feels so good to be in community. And also I get so many more opportunities, you know, when I'm in community. There's like, you know, the ideas that get bounced off of each other are so much better. And also, like, being able to go through this process with, you know, with friends, with, you know, with other people, it creates an abundance of wealth that is both spiritual, emotional, as well as financial. For me, every single time I'm in collaboration, that's when things happen. Every single time I'm like, I'm gonna try to do this by myself, that's when things go down. Mm-hmm. So that's just been my personal experience. And for some reason I have to keep on reminding myself, because I still have that program running in the back. Oh, I can do it. No, I don't. That's not how it happens. It happens with, you know, with people, with community.
Mm. Yeah, that makes me think of, so my mother growing up, this was like her motto until I called her out on it a couple of years ago. But her motto was, competition is the spice of life. And so I grew up as the youngest of 3 daughters, and I have strong, amazing sisterhood. There's never been competition between us. We're so always supporting each other, always excited to see what the other sister is doing. And for me, that's as far as it went. And so growing up, I don't know if anyone else on the call relates to this, but being a mixed partially Black identity woman or a little girl, I got so much hate, mostly from the Black women. And so it wasn't until I moved out here to the West Coast in the Bay Area where I actually experienced women who were mixed race, who had some type of Black identity, who actually embraced me in community and actually wanted to see me do well and be successful, and wanted to support each other. And I think also this piece about like the wanting to do stuff, but I call it the independent woman pedestal, like people singing Beyonce, like or I guess that was Destiny's Child. Damn, that was even further back. You know, but it's like, how far did that singing that song and internalizing that song get us? Like, how far does that actually take us? You never hear a man say, I'm an independent man. No, a man goes, I'm a grown-ass man. And being a grown-ass man means that they make their own decisions. It doesn't mean that they have to do everything by themselves. Mm-hmm. And so I've been personally like trying to just bring this the independent part out, because I'm so much better when we're interdependent. Like telling ourselves we're independent, first of all, is a lie. like, did you make your food? Did you make your clothes? Did you build your house or whatever apartment you're in? Right. So it's not actually true. So understanding the paradigm underneath what's keeping us from community is huge. And then I'd love to just kind of understand from the other women on this call as well. Yeah, and maybe it's just a personal experience, but I've had this experience reflected to me with other women of color that I've spoken to, of feeling like there's competition, like because of tokenism, only one of us can make it, so it's going to be me and not you. Like this kind of, and it's unspoken, right? It's like implied. But I would love to, if that stirs up something for anyone, this is a topic that I'm personally working through a lot right now. And I'm being called to lead specifically women of color. So so this is something that's like really, really up for me. So I'd love to hear if others can relate.
That's actually a very powerful statement. For myself, I haven't really experienced it. And if I have, I didn't notice it because I choose not to. It has to be really overt for me to even notice it. I'll just have to put it that way. Because, as Zig Ziglar always says, help enough people get what they want and you'll get what you want. When we talk about creating powerful relationships and friendships for success, I always believe in the power of community, in like, how can I support you? How can I help you? Let's rise together. I truly, in the depths of my heart, believe that. And so I've intentionally and consciously am only involved in communities that are heart-centered in that way. So that could be why I don't fully experience it, unless there is a lone stray wolf in sheep's clothing that may be in there. I haven't personally done that, but I consciously pick the communities that I want to be in association with for that very reason. And so I know we're on time, Jessica, I see it, but I did want to just communicate that piece that is really, really powerful in building relationships for success, in addition to picking up the phone, which I've done on many, many occasions. If somebody comes to your mind, pick up the phone. And I'll tell you why I've said that. I've lost 6 friends this past year, and family members combined, whether it's suddenly or an illness that took them out within a year's time. And every time I've thought of them, before I even knew they were sick or when they were sick, I called and checked in. I didn't text, or if I called, then I would text and say, I called you. And usually within days or months after that, they have passed on. So I would just encourage anybody, if somebody is on your mind, pick up the phone. Reach out, because there are a lot of lone wolves. I am a lone wolf club. I am president of that chapter. I grew up as an only child. I've learned to play with my Barbies by myself and have a good old time in the room by myself. And for me, that's my stretch. That's my getting out of the box, is okay. When I feel myself going in deep work mode, get out, call, do something, set up a lunch with someone. Vera and I have been trying to have lunch for a while. We're going to make it happen. But what I'm saying is, really get yourself out of that box. And when you have that thought, like, I'll do it later, or now's not the good time, that's your signal to do it right now. And I would just say, trust your gut, because I've done that on many times. And at my age, if I don't do it now, I'll forget to do it later. So I would just really encourage anybody who is struggling with getting out of that lone wolf, I don't want to ask for help, I don't want to be a bother kind of thing. Offer a helping hand, reach out to be generous, and then you'll get so much back. And that's my spiel on that.
Gorgeous. I have just a closing comment around this, and I also recognize we're kind of at time, and I want to invite you to trickle off as you need to trickle off if you need to. But I wanted to tie our conversation about fear into this conversation about community and into success. And for me, I used to lead a workshop that was collaboratively with some other women, an annual workshop called the Anger Breakthrough Seminar. And ultimately, kind of the underlying message of that seminar was that anger by itself, the energy of anger, is just a life force energy, just like joy or orgasm or laughter, and some of the positive, the sensations are actually very similar. And so we kind of look at anger or fear as just like an energy, that sensation that's moving through your body. Then sometimes we can feel those feelings and use them as signposts, like they're messages. So with fear, one thing that I've learned to do, especially with women, because like this ties back to what you were saying, Lisa, I think with women in general, there's a lot of cattiness. We hear stories about in the corporate world, women like pitted against each other and not helping each other to rise up. And because there is this like, if anyone's going to make it, I'm going to make it. There's just this competitive mentality. And I think that's really baked in for women in general. There's a lot of cattiness, a lot of like in the world. And I've definitely gone into women's communities where there's a lot of that going on, and it doesn't feel very good. So one thing, there's that kind of like, I feel afraid to be myself in this environment, is just sometimes a good signpost of like, this is not my community. However, sometimes that same sensation comes up when I'm interacting with a woman who is like being completely friendly. Like there's nothing that it's like I am generating that feeling, and sometimes it's more of a pointing to my own feelings about my own self-worth. Like, she's amazing and I feel intimidated, and that's showing up as a sensation of fear. And I listen to that. And what I learned to do about 10 years ago is when I feel that, we're like, this is a magnificent woman standing in front of me or creating some amazing thing over there, I'll feel that feeling of fear or envy or jealousy. And I use that as like, oh, thanks, universe. This is a signpost that I'm meant to reach out and extend a friendship hand and have a heart connection with this person and see how we can collaborate. And some of my very best friends, all my very best long-term, like many-year, over 10 years, 15 years friends, have all come from that gesture of like, I need to pay attention to something here because she's actually really awesome, but I'm like, and my business friendships as well. Some of my most like profitable, win-win, awesome business friendships have come from me being like, okay, like it's the signpost, and paying attention to that signpost and then reaching out and kind of taking the high road. The final thing I will say is all of the women that I know, every single woman that I know who has a sustainable, profitable business, even like 6 figures and 7 figures. Yesterday, our whole panel was all 6 and 7 figure women of color. Every single woman I know that is like sustainable profitability in her business has, if not one, multiple elements of collaboration woven into her business. So I'm a big fan of what's been said here. Like, you like reach out to people, have heart connection conversations, even if you're not sure where those conversations are going to go. Like, my relationship with pretty much every one of you came from, at some point, having some kind of heart connection conversation. It's amazing what kind of speaking opportunities, guest teaching opportunities, cross-pollination, cross-promotion, client referral opportunities come out of a space where people feel connected with you, and then therefore they can be your cheerleader because they're like, I see you, I see what you're creating, let me send some people over to you. But it comes from that heart connection first. So I just wanted to name that. And also want to name, I know we're past time. I have a few more minutes. I'm happy to stay on if anyone else has closing remarks, and you're welcome to trickle off as you need to.
I have to go, and I just want to say thank you so much to every single person here. I'm so grateful for the wisdom and the gifts that each of you bring. I sat here with my notebook because I knew I was going to get some nuggets, and I totally have a full page from each of you. So thank you so much for what you bring. Thank you for your willingness to bring it and to show up and to keep showing up. I'm just so grateful. So thank you for doing you, for being you. And if you're watching and I didn't give you specific gratitude because you weren't one of the people speaking, I can't wait to see and witness what you have to bring as well. Thank you again, Jessica. So grateful. That's it. I just keep repeating now. I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
I wanted to say too, thank you, Jessica. Lisa, take care. Hopefully we'll connect. I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm so blessed and honored to have met all of you on the call today, everyone that I met on, I think, Tuesday. And I want to thank all the people that are listening in live with us and who will listen to the replay. I hope that you too were blessed by the information, the knowledge and wisdom that all these lovely women have shared. So thank you so much, Jessica, for remembering me from February and bringing me into your beautiful tribe of women. I'm just so blessed. Thank you.
Gratitude.
Yeah, and I just want to echo, Jessica, this has been the caliber of women that you've brought to the table to have these conversations. It's been wonderful for me. It's been spiritual food. It's been just what I needed. I put together a vision board, which honestly, I hate to admit, but I never do. But this year, for whatever reason, I felt called to it. And one of the things was community. And one of the things was finding that sisterhood and really connecting with it. And to start my 2020, to end my 2019 and start my 2020 with this powerful energy with these women, the women that have been on the call, with the women that have, called to ask about, burnout and whether this is something real for me. This is my dream and passion coming to life. So I thank you in such gratitude for Spirit connecting with you, to connect to me so that I can hear that this is next level, like this is me up leveling. And so again, thank all of you ladies, everyone that's been on the call. Thank you so much for your love and attention and your knowledge and wisdom. This has been really incredible for me to participate in. Yeah,
gorgeous.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Vera. Awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll complete. So wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, love. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Yeah. Much love to all of you. Thank you.